Hey y'all, this is Adam with American Pet Transport, and I want to go over today the cost of transportation. Well, it's subjective, but it's basically on my opinion. But I've been looking at a lot of how other transporters function and generalized. So kind of take this with a grain of salt, but there is a lot of truth to this. Um, One thing I want to go over is the rates are based off most of the time mileage. It's like a mile per gallon rate. So the average, I would say, most comfortable cost, like full retail for most transporters, and the number that they want to get at, including myself, is $1.25 a mile. Usually someone that's well established, that has many breeders, many transports, has been around for years. Very easy for them to get that. And they hardly ever use a broker website to get to that point. A lot of newbies, when they're building their reputation, they're building their business, they have to start a little bit lower in order to build up that rapport, the business reputation, the reviews. And they may start off at 50 to 60 cents a mile, give or take. But if you're using a broker website, to name one, there's Citizenship or UseShip. There's a bunch of other ones. You're in a competitive bidding system. You're almost always never going to get that full $1.25 a mile for a transporter. You're probably going to be in the 60 to 80 cent range, but that all depends on circumstances. I mean, that could be the type of animal, how many animals you're transporting, the weight, the distance, the drive. There's a lot of many factors, and I could go on for a long time, but I'm trying to make this as short as possible. Basically what I pulled here, I have an accountant there that does all my taxes and everything for me. This is basically my expense report. And to kind of give you an idea where we come up with these costs, is our overhead expenses. Typically for us, sorry, I keep saying a lot. I take public speaking. It's just that's how my brain works. I'm a horrible public speaker. I'm about as bad as Elon Musk. But there's a lot of factors that go involved with doing this. It's not as simple as picking up your dog and moving it from point A to point B. To kind of give you an example, my total expenses for my company is $57,345. To kind of give you a big picture. So just in auto repairs, $3,300. This is kind of a breakdown. Insurance, $2,600. Meals on the road, $4,800. Just to have my cell service running, $1,400. Hotels, $9,300. Vehicle rentals, when I need to do, that's around $4,000. And that's not including all the other miscellaneous things. I'm talking about tolls, or going through tolls, subscriptions, insurance, accounting fees, everything that goes into everything all together. So we've got to take that and put it into a cent per mile and try to make some profit. But you got to think about this: if I'm paying $57,000 in expenses, where does my profit come into? I've got to make some profit. So a lot of these new drivers, they're basically bleeding money, trying to get established. So that's where we come up with the cost. And that's full retail. Now, if you want to do VIP transportation, where you only want your animal in the vehicle, it's going to come at a premium cost. And usually it can be anywhere from 2 to 3 times the actual rate, because you're buying all the seats in the vehicle that someone could potentially fill. It's the difference of paying for a $300 plane ticket and sharing the ride with 100 people, or paying $10,000 for a commercial jet and you're paying for all whatever 10 seats that thing holds. And the gas prices don't help either. So we've had to increase it. Now, I've been out to Death Valley. Gas is over $8 a gallon over there. California is $5 to $6 a gallon. Where I live at near Pensacola, it's hitting the $4.50 range. But sometimes I'll go to Alabama and hit more. So I have to use different apps and use different companies and services to try to get that gas price down. And right now, what I found best is the Upside app or Gas Buddy helps a lot, but there's a cap to that. Normally when I'm driving, to kind of give you an idea of like the daily expenses, when I'm driving, like I've got multiple routes, multiple days, my straight up overhead is $300 or more a day. And $200 of that, $200 to $300 of that's just gas. So, and how we figure out like our timing for this, because a lot of the misconception is that, hey, from point A to point B, you'll say, oh, it's only a 9 hour drive. It's never going to be a 9 hour drive. It's going to be like a 12 to 14 hour drive. And how we figure that is our average with breaks and stops and everything. Our average is 50 cents or 50 miles per hour. So if it's like, a thousand, or I want to say 1,000 mile trip, it's gonna take you like almost 2 days to get there. Or, like let's say my average is about 600 miles a day. So for 50 miles per hour, it's gonna take a full solid 12 hours. Now if we have to deal with multiple animals or puppies, it's gonna be longer than that. I think the longest I had was 7 dogs, including myself, and it took like an hour. So we can't calculate cost based on time. It has to go by mile, because time's relative. It's always changing. You could have traffic, a breakdown, or whatnot. I mean, it's obvious things, just like if you travel or whatnot. So, not trying to ramble too much. It's just trying to give you a big picture of everything. Now, normally we can work out deals where if you may see costs, like if you're in a bidding system or whatever, you might see bidders up to $1,200, up to $300. It depends on circumstance. So, if someone's building a new route and they have nothing else, they're going to start at the higher end of it. But they can offer shared ride costs where they can break that down anywhere from like 60 to 80 cents a mile and do a discount. But we can't count our eggs before a hatch unless you can kind of predict the future of how your routes usually go, because I can't be like, hey, I can do this run at 60 cents a gallon and hope to God that I'm going to get other routes going that way. It's not a realistic model. So, we may all start at retail and then see what your budget needs are, and then maybe drop the price a little. For example, I've got a trip going up from Georgia to New York, and it's $800. So I think that one's about a dollar a gallon. But from Florida to Georgia, that's on my dime. I've got to drive 7+ hours to get there. So I've got to factor in the cost of transport, not only for that leg, but getting there and then getting back, because there have been many times where I've gone to Northeast empty. I've driven to Massachusetts back home empty. I've driven to Montana back home empty. So you got to think of these prices. If we're saying, hey, it's $600, and you're like, wow, that's a lot. You got to understand that this isn't like a regular taxi service where you're only paying like $10 to go 5 miles down the road, and chances are that taxi is going to catch another ride within a mile down the road. There's a lot of logistical matters to it. So we have to predict the future. But like some of the prices that I got up to you, there's maintenance, there's overhead costs. I mean, I'm not trying to state the obvious, but this is very obvious. It's not like a FedEx truck that's got 100 packages on their truck. We're dealing with live animals. And even though you say, hey, it's a 9-hour drive time, there's still the overnight stuff. And most of us transporters, we don't get any sleep. If we're dealing with puppies, we're getting up every 2 to 4 hours taking care of them. So there's that care time, And I mean, if you've got kids, you understand like, your daycare stuff, the high cost of daycare, and that's for them only to watch your kids for a short amount of time. So, but a lot of us, we don't factor in like a cost per hour, because I mean, if you put it in, just a kind of example, if I took a route and broke it down to like an actual like how much you get paid per hour, it's probably like tipping wages. So, and that's, if you've got more questions, I can answer it. Like, I can actually go through and itemize. I'm not going to go into it right now. I can itemize, like, hey, give me this run. I can sit there and itemize and go down like every little line item, like, tolls, hotel, fuel, whatnot, and come up with a realistic price. And it's probably gonna be like, hey, well over that 125 a mile, and they're like, how is he gonna survive doing it? But there's a lot of other factors we've got to consider. It's a lot of math. There's formulas, there's calculations involved to it. So we got to do the best we can. Uh, and there's every once in a while, like, I can help out someone. For example, I did one. I guess I don't know if you'd call it like a charity thing, because it wasn't for like an organization. But I had a route going from South Carolina to California, and I think at the time I was just starting out. It was like $1,400. Now it's more like $2,200 with my overhead increasing. But there was a pickup. It was going to San Diego, but there was another pickup for Fort Walton Beach, which is about an hour east of me, going to Los Angeles. And it was a very long story. I was worried. It was had to do with it was like a mental health. I had sympathy because there was a suicide involved and everything like that, trying to move family dogs, and it was a big story. And I really felt for them, and all they could afford is $400. And I'm like, there's no way I can move a dog for $400. I said I'd hit Texas before I ran out of money. Um, but since I was already going that way, I was able to help them out. But those are like very extreme circumstances. But I mean, it all depends. Like I said, my main vehicle is a Hyundai Sonata. Great on gas mileage, and if I'm only doing one or two. But some of these transporters, they're running transit vans. They're running 20 miles per gallon vehicles. So they may be able to cut the cost if they know that because of more room, they can fill more cages. Um, but I mean, that's pretty much what I'm gonna leave it at. That I've been kind of rambling for 12 minutes. I mean, if you got more questions, or if someone in the comments has more questions or whatnot, I can answer it individually. Or if it's kind of like what do you do in this situation or that situation, I could try to help out with that. But please understand, like, it is very expensive. It's very expensive for us to run. I mean, if we're telling you that it's going to cost $1,000 to transport your pet, we may make only $100 off of it, because of all the overhead or whatnot. And then there's also one thing I want to mention too, last thing I want to close with, is that there's a common misconception that if you pay 500, let's say 500, $100 for a dog shelter, dog purebred, whatever, that your cost of transportation's going to be the same amount. It's not. Also, the type of animal, if it's like a hamster or a rabbit or whatnot, it doesn't affect the cost of transportation. It doesn't matter if you have me mail out a 16-ounce letter or a 100-pound Great Dane. It's still going to the same cost. Gas, meals, fuel, overhead, everything. It's going to be the same cost regardless, of the animal. Now, yes, we might be able to do a discount if we could fit like 2 puppies in a crate versus a per animal, because it's not actually taking up a whole extra seat, maybe a little bit larger carrier. There's things like that, but I mean, feel free, I can do an updated video or make this shorter or whatnot. I didn't want to spend more than like 10 minutes or so. I think we're at 15 minutes, but yeah, I can reshoot this with something different, some topics or whatnot, to help you out. I mean, if you want to create a scenario for me and I can actually sit down and like break everything down and come up with a cost, what it would be, definitely whatnot. But I know this is like the number one top question that I get, and it varies. And it a lot of times I hear some of these sad stories where, people want 2,000 miles for an animal, but their budget's $200. It's not going to happen unless someone's already going that way, or whatnot. And it's very hard. It's just, I wish I could help them, but I can't go like basically, bankrupt to do it. So, what I can do to kind of help people is what I've known with one shelter is, I moved a dog from a shelter from Louisiana to Kansas, and they actually did like crowdfunding. I'm not sure if it was like a fundraiser or whatnot that helped with the cost, but I do offer financing through PayPal credit. Um, So if you're approved either through PayPal or credit, if your credit's a little bit challenged, I think they do take 4Pay, um, which basically you make a payment every 2 weeks and there's 4 payments. I do offer that too. It just depends on your approval that way. It avoids a lot of scam on my end because I get the full payment from PayPal, but you have to work it out with them and whatnot. And a lot of like the crowdfunding fundraising, I've seen people do like a GoFundMe or something like that. That helps a lot too. A lot of times, if we get an established with like a breeder, like a known breeder, and they keep us busy, we may be able to work out a deal with them too. So it's different for every circumstance. So don't be sticker shocked. I know a lot of people ask why is this person offering $400 and this other person's offering like $1,400. There's a lot of different reasonings behind it. Let me know your experience. If you've ever transported a pet, or let me know what your experience is. I'd like to know like how many miles it was, what they cost, if they had other transports going that way. Was there a fundraiser or something like that? I'm trying to get like a better understanding of how this is, and most of this poll is based off of what I see when I'm using a broker's website or talking to my friends that are also transporters. But have a great day, and it is Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to the dads and the moms out there.